Okay, I would like to start off this reading by saying we missed the past week, the past Tuesday, because we had a book to get out. The book is called A Storyteller's Story, and it's a semi-fictional autobiography, if there any such genre as that. I'm sure there must be, because that's what the book is called. It's about this thick. How many words, Zola, Salena-Hawkins?
It's about 600,
how many pages?
675 pages.
Yeah, so it's about that big. Anyway, we had to do that, but now we're back in the saddle and we're riding on into the sunset. That's the way we usually do, by continuing with the reading of Conversations with Likka Sto Rufus. And as you can see behind me,
Yes.
he's all over the place.
Yes. Conversations
With Likka Sto Rufus.
Okay.
Chapter 8. There's a lot of, I guess you could call it good news that I might pass along to you, but I'm sure that if you've been reading the newspapers or you've been watching MSNBC, you'll know that the good news has to do with the bad news for somebody else. And I'll just let that go at that. But I'm overjoyed to see that finally the legal system is beginning to catch up with the law, or what the law is supposed to be. Chapter 8 starts like this. So then what happened? Well, that's how it ended this time. ZiZi, are you crying? Well, not exactly. I'm trying not to. You're telling me the story of a man who fell in love with an Australian woman, an Aboriginal woman. There's a big difference. Educate me. I don't know a lot about Australia. I don't know a whole lot myself, but I'm learning. This happened 50-some years ago, and it sounds like something that happened yesterday. That's the feeling I have. The vibe I'm trying to bring to the story as I make my outline, put the notes together about the whole scene. So that's that. Now then, concerning our business. I'm moving to Long Beach right after November 3rd, right after Biden-Harris kicks that barbarian's ass out into the streets. My goodness, sir, what language. 45 minutes later, after a lot of gorgeous language had been exchanged, it was time for another long night without my ZiZi. I got back to my outline of Rufus' story. Next day, I almost panicked when I pulled into the parking lot and didn't see Rufus in his usual spot. I parked and studied my watch. 2 p.m. He was supposed to be in his spot now. I just sat there drumming on the steering wheel, feeling a little frustrated. What's with this guy? I was deep into his story. I wanted more of it. I did a double take. Rufus strolling out of the liquor store. What the hell are you doing in the liquor store? A non-drinker. Hey, Rufus! I called out to him. The liquor store parking lot regulars were surreptitiously passing a half-gallon jug of cheap wine around, and as usual, having an animated discussion, argument about something. Hey, Rufus! I called to him again. He did this hip little cripple strut over to me. Who you shouting at, Willie? You think I can't hear? That I can't see? What's happening? Same old irascible guy. Irascible rascal. He made me smile just thinking about the way he was. Oh, nothing much. I was just getting ready to take a drive up to Griffith Park. You want to take a ride? What made me come up with something like that? He gave me a weird look above the level of his mask. Never knew anybody who could say so much without saying a word. It was all in his eyes. Or the way he slouched in place. or the way he jammed his hands down into his pants pocket. Griffith Park, huh? I ain't been up there in years. Well, I opened the passenger door for him. He paused just before asking, how are we going to do social distancing? Simple, easy. You lean as far as you can in that direction, and I'll lean as far as I can in this direction. And we'll keep our masks on until we get into the park. I'll never know why that struck his funny bone in such a funny way, but he laughed himself silly until we did the on-ramp at Willow. All right now, Brother Willie, be careful. You know, a lot of these idiots out here want to kill themselves, commit suicide because they've fallen in love with the Trumpster. I parsed that around in my skull for a few miles, keeping the northbound truck brigade in cautious sight. I gave up after a bit. I couldn't figure out what he meant. I really grew to love the way he could be completely silent and then open up on you, like someone who wanted to pour his soul out to you. I could never figure out what triggered him, what turned him on. What's this? He asked me as we twisted around this road leading up to the planetarium. I thought you said we were going to the park. The planetarium is in the park. Well, a part of it. He got a big laugh out of that, too, for some reason. In any case, there we were, on top of the world, overlooking the Los Angeles basin. We sat on a bench that gave us a clear view all the way up to Santa Monica. A beautifully clear day. He opened up without any pressure for me. My time was winding down. We had 3 more weekends in Sydney and Australia before being shipped back to Vietnam as official tunnel rats. I hate to say it, but that sounds like a terrible name to stick on somebody. Well, what else could you call them? Tunnel rodents? Underground troops? People under soil? Tunnel rats were exactly the right name for us. I had a few minutes of reluctance about wanting to hear this tunnel rat story. I tried to deflect the story by trying to talk about other things. To say the day seemed to be too gorgeous to be talking about this rat shit. Did I tell you I talked to ZiZi, my girl, about you last night? I guess you don't want to hear about this ugly tunnel rat shit, huh? He had beaten me to the pass. I have to be honest with you, Rufus. In a way, I don't want to hear about it, but I have to hear about it, else I won't be able to write your story. Yeah, that's the way I feel too. That's all he needed. This is what he told me. Sitting high up there at the planetarium, the Los Angeles basin and the ocean sprawl out around us. I had 2 more weekends left on the calendar before we would be returning to Vietnam, for me to begin my tunnel rat career. Music drifted over to us from somebody's car radio. Wow, Charlie Parker, Laura. That's magic. I haven't heard that one in 100 years. Yeah, Bird was something else. You know about Charlie Parker? Bird? I'm happy to say yes, I do. My dad had a whole bunch of this stuff. Lucky you. And then there was that by now familiar Space Away look. So you had 2 more weekends. Yeah. 2 more weekends before my return to Hill. I decided that I wanted Yvonne to be my wife, to get married before I started climbing down into the rat holes, the tunnels. Rufus was constantly doing some kind of plot twist on my head. I was beginning to think of bringing a pen and notebook to our meetings, but I immediately vetoed it because I felt it would inhibit our relationship. You know how it is with some people. The minute they see a tape recorder or you pull out a pad and pen, things go south. You decided to get married. Yeah, I can't figure out why except for the fact that I was in love. You in love? What's the problem? You don't think I could be in love? Sorry, Rufus, you just come across as such a hard case at times. I am a hard case. But I wasn't always the way I am now. Back then, I guess you could have called me a sentimentalist, like Tarzan. So yeah, I asked Yvonne to marry me. And to my surprise, she agreed. I leveled with her. I told her that what I was doing was very dangerous, that I might not come back. She brushed it all aside. You will be back. That was all she said. And from that point, it was on. Father and Mother Gugalon gave me their blessings and started preparing a wedding party. 2 weekends ahead of time. That's correcto, amigo. Now comes the big problem. Who do we get to say the words to make the thing real? I had an appointment with the unit chaplain that almost turned into a homicide. I'm sorry, Private, he says to me. I won't have anything to do with the marriage of a heathen prostitute. That was as far as he got before I had run around the corner of his desk and grabbed his scrawny neck in this python chokehold. If one of my mites had not been passing by the open door of his office, I would have killed that motherfucker. Rufus, I've never heard you cuss before. Well, I don't like people who use profanity a lot. I think it's uncouth. Oh, what else could I say? Yeah, I would have strangled this sleazy bastard if Rudy hadn't pulled my arms away from his neck. Of course, it was a big thing. Major Knightsbridge had me in his office within the hour, along with Chaplain Jones. The Major didn't fool around. He was the judge and jury. He listened carefully to Chaplain Jones lie about being attacked first. Sir, this man came into my office and attacked me without any provocation whatsoever. Now, why do you think he did that, Chaplain Jones? Sir, I don't have the foggiest, sir. It seemed like I was going to be railroaded. What justice could I expect to receive? A couple of old school, upper crusted English officers talking to each other. Now then, Private Dixon, lead us hear your side of the story. I told it plain and simple, including the part about losing my temper and trying to strangle the chaplain. At the end of my story, the Major turned to the chaplain and asked in this real soft, dangerous sounding voice, Chaplain Jones? Chaplain Jones, is this true? What Private Nixon has just said, that you called his fiancée a prostitute? Do you know for a fact that Private Dixon's fiancée is a prostitute? The chaplain's head was drooping down between his legs like a whipped dog. The Major was not finished with him. Answer my question, Chaplain! The Major slammed his command stick on his desk and his face turned brick red. No, sir, I can't say for a fact that Private Dixon's fiancée is a prostitute. Then why in the hell did you say that? The Major was not very tall, but when he stood up behind his desk, he looked about 7 feet. The chaplain looked like he was getting ready to cry. I didn't feel sorry for him. The office was completely quiet for a few minutes. Major Knightsbridge leaned across his desk on his knuckles. Chaplain Jones, your services are no longer required in this unit. As a matter of fact, I shall see to it that your services will no longer be required in the army. Are you getting me, Jones? The scene was so cold, the Major was turning him out right then and there. You are dismissed, Jones. Jones stood and tried to salute, but the Major wouldn't let him. I do not return salutes by racists, Jones. That was all he said, and Jones slithered out. Now, back to you, Private Dixon. Leave the date, the time, and the place where your wedding is scheduled to take place, and we will have a proper chaplain on hand to perform the rites. That will be all private. Thank you, sir. He almost smiled as he returned my salute. We had a great wedding. I didn't know a whole lot about Aborigine customs and all that, but I soon found out. By the time we went into the second day of our marriage, I can definitely say I knew a whole lot more than I already knew. I had the impression, like a lot of people, that the Aboriginal people were kind of solemn, you know, not too much into party. I had to back off than that. These were people who had a great sense of humor. Kind of bawdy too, if you know what I mean. I must have had 100 jokes translated to me about what my virgin bride was going to do to me on our honeymoon. Jokes about magic herbs I could take to defend myself. And then we danced and danced and danced and danced till dawn, and then we danced some more. I was beginning to think I would never have a private time with Yvonne, with my bride, but then the moment came and we were off. Did I mention Major Knightsbridge and most of the members of my unit came to the wedding? Sounds like the Major was really a righteous dude. You right on the button, Willie boy. He was a righteous dude. I'll tell you more about him as we get into this. Yeah, it was a great wedding. But it didn't come close to the night we spent out in the bush, buck naked, loving each other. We didn't have an opportunity to do that but a few times, to be buck naked in the moonlight before my time to return to hell came. That's sudden, huh? Yeah, about that sudden. Hey, you had anything to eat lately? I see a sub over there. Can you dig a sub, or are you one of these veggie villains? Give me a break, Rufus. You know I eat meat. Let's get something. I really like the way this little brother went about things. He could have been starving to death, but he would never ask you to feed him. He would suggest that we have something to eat. I didn't mind his way of going about things. I felt I was receiving much more than I was giving. We took our sandwiches back to the bench and sat there snacking. As I looked back on the scene, I felt that there was something almost cosmic happening. Maybe it's the writer and me, but I couldn't help but feel a feeling of the cosmic thing. There we were at the planetarium, nestled against the sky, if you want to get poetic about it. A truly insane man was doing everything possible to try to get a second chance to destroy America. Not a democracy, as a lot of people claimed it to be, but America, the country. He was tripping around the country trying to whip up hate, discord, and madness. And he had convinced millions of white people, some weird-ass others too, to join his campaign. I clearly understood why millions of white folks were in the MAGA camp. They wanted to retain a privileged place in our society, even those who weren't racists. My problem was with the people of color who had also joined the Make America White Again movement. Certainly there were millions of black, brown, and Asians strolling around with AKs strapped on their minds, but they were not enough to be visible. Why would any African American support a Trump after a brief, casual review of some of his racist stances, his racist rants? Remember? Lynch the Central Mark 5. Obama wasn't born in America. I've done more for African Americans than any president since Abraham Lincoln. Obviously, that explained the ultra-high percentage of African American COVID-19 deaths, the unemployment rates in African American communities, the ongoing African American struggle to avoid being murdered by police in the streets or just unjustly treated, by the so-called justice system. Why wouldn't we vote for him as though we had nothing to lose? And why wouldn't Latino voters flock to the banner of the racist asshole who snatched babies out of their mother's arms, who made hundreds if not thousands of children permanently displaced people, who locked up others in cages and called their fathers, sons, uncles, brothers, drug dealers, and others rapists? Asians, the Chinese mostly, were guilty of releasing the Chinese virus on his precious white people. That was his line, despite the fact that the virus was proven to have been imported from Europe. Well, it has a more complicated origin than that, but the Chinese were not totally responsible. Rufus had excellent perception, superior timing. Being up here gives a man a lot to think about, huh? He didn't interrupt my thoughts, he blended in. We took simultaneous sips of our oversized Cokes. I nodded in agreement. It was time to get back on the track. The sun was slowly settling behind the Pacific Ocean. And that's the end of chapter 8. Whoa. And we're going to start chapter 9 on time, next time, because it's coming to that place.
Why, thank you, Odie Hawkins. Your book can be purchased on Amazon, your website.
Which book? This one here?
Yes, well, all of your books can be purchased on Amazon, but Conversations with Likka Sto Rufus.
Did you say liquor store?
Likka.
Or liquor?
Likka. Likka Store.
Say it again, baby.
Likka.
Liquor.
Likka Store.
You sound like somebody from Kentucky.
We're working
or
on
Alabama.
Alabama, if you will, please. Indeed. But your website is www.odiehawkins.com. And we look forward to chapter 9. Thank you very, very, very much for the reading of Likka Sto Rufus. Conversation with Likka Sto Rufus. All right. He's quite a character.
You got that, you got that, and you capturing the essence of it with one word.
Likka.
Liquor.
Likka. And finally, it.
Yeah.
Miss.